born in the United States. It's gonna be tough. Yeah. I bet it is.
Okay.
I don't have any lipstick on.
That's okay, that's fine.
You don't need that. I don't think.
You guys look great.
Yeah, you guys look great. I don't know, what's the earliest memories you guys have of your childhood? Or, Graham, what's your earliest memory of your childhood?
Oh, I remember my mother and father taking us to a place called Muffs, and it was on water, and there was a lot of water, but I was little enough not to realize that if I went from one dock to the other dock and I looked over at them, I didn't know how I got there.
Really?
It was such a great, I was so surprised. How did I get over that water? In other words, it was two
Swam
two
over it.
docks that went out into the water, and I must have wandered off one dock and went on the other, and then I saw my mother and father over there, and I didn't know how I got there. So I must have been about 5 or so. And that area now is where LaGuardia Airport is. Whole big, it was all marsh and swamp, and the gypsies used to come there.
Yeah.
And that was great. They wore purple shoes and green skirts and earrings and all sorts of things that women didn't wear in those days.
Yeah.
They were great. And they would settle in empty stores and hang curtains up and tell fortunes.
Huh.
And I used to follow them. And my mother was always afraid they'd kidnap me.
Yeah.
I thought they were wonderful. They were so colorful.
What do you remember about the gypsies, by the way?
They were so attractive and great, dark hair and earrings and full skirts and color. They were so colorful.
Do you remember anyone in particular?
No, we never got that
Yeah.
close to them. We would see, they would come periodically. They were gypsies. They never stayed in one place.
Yeah.
So, those are my early memories. How did I get across the water without getting wet?
Is that what you remember?
How about Sheep's Head Bay?
That was when I got older.
Yeah, what about Sheep's Head Bay?
Well, all those places in Long Island were wonderful years ago. They weren't developed. There was no macadam. And if you wanted to eat fish, it was in shanties along the water, regular shanties. And sometimes you'd have to walk out a long gangplank to get to a restaurant. And they weren't fancy, but they had the best crab's legs and lobster and all kinds of good fish. So that used to be a Sunday excursion. And Dad, we had a car.
Yeah.
And we'd go out on the island. And there was Little Neck, Great Neck, Port Washington, Sheep's Head Bay. Sheep's Head Bay is near Coney Island, though. That's different. But the island was wonderful in those days. Not like it is today. Today you get on a sluiceway and you don't really see the little towns.
Yeah.
You don't know how to get off them to see them,
Yeah.
Oh, and I remember the first big beach, Jones's Beach, that was built by Moses, a man by the name of Moses. He was the first park commissioner in New York. That is fabulous.
Yeah.
It probably still is. Big miles of white sand. Long Island is wonderful. It was. Probably is still, but it's hidden. Mostly main big highways now.
What are your earliest memories of your parents? Or your just memories of your parents?
I remember the apartment we lived in, and you entered in the kitchen way. It was up on the 2nd floor. It was a big apartment for those days. Now where that building stands is where the Triborough Bridge goes through now. My grandfather had a cigar factory, and we used to walk to his place and see people that were working there at the tables. And I still remember how they used to cut the last cover on a cigar. They have a sharp knife, and the tobacco was laid out flat, and they would go shh like that, a turn. And then that was the part that they put on the end of the cigar, and they would wind it.
Huh.
I used to see them go like that too.
Yeah.
It wasn't sanitary.
No.
I remember the stands where the tobacco would be laid over them like a horse with a round top and a cup underneath. And I remember it wasn't far from St. Michael's Cemetery, which is still in Long Island. If you went through Triborough Bridge sluice way, you get a quick look at it. And that's where my forebears are buried.
Huh.
And not far from there were farms, miles of farms, and Chinese coolies with the Chinese hats working in the fields. They were potato fields. And that isn't far, really, from New York City.
Yeah.
St. Michael's Cemetery is right across the East River and up Ditmars Avenue, maybe a mile or two. And my mother remembers when the Astors and the Belmonts and the Vanderbilts used to come in tallyhos to the races, and the ladies were all dressed so fine, and they had men with big long horns, to say out of the way, get out of the way. She thought that was great. And there were beautiful fruit trees growing all along Ditmars Avenue, farms and fruit trees. Now it's all buildings, and she had nice memories. And that's right across the river from Gracie Mansion, where the mayor lives, which is around 89th Street in New York, east side.
Tell me.
Now that's what my mother remembered, but I remember Muffs where LaGuardia is, and what else do I remember? My father coming home from work.
Mm-hmm.
We always ate together.
Yeah.
And then he got a car, and then we were all out on the road. And Aunt Evie used to get seasick in the car. She didn't really want to go. Bronx River Parkway goes up toward Croton Dan, up toward Westchester. That was a pretty parkway. It was rustic with stone and trees. Now it's a hazard because it's outmoded. The cars go too fast for it, but it's still there. And on TV this morning, I heard that 4 cars were drowned in it. We had so much rain there in Westchester, a freak storm.
Yeah.
And the people were rescued, but the water went right through Bronx River Parkway like a channel.
Huh.
I heard about that. And when I was little too, one more thing, then it's your turn. Then we moved to Manhattan. When I was real little, we moved to Manhattan, and we lived in a big building. And you could look down in the back, and there used to be, maybe they were immigrants, but they were called Papa bands. And men used to go around and play German music, and people would throw pennies and stuff out of the window to them. And I remember an automobile that had a carousel on it. And we used to get so sick and dizzy. It was a truck with a carousel that wasn't as wide as this room.
Yeah.
And it had horses on it, and you'd go around. You'd get so dizzy. But it was fun.
Yeah.
My cousins and I used to get on that. You'd never heard of that, did you?
No.
A truck with a little carousel on it. And then what we used to have, which was common in New York, was a man with a monkey. And the monkey had a little hat. And he'd go around with a it had one leg, and it had a music machine on the top of it, and he would play this funny music, and the monkey would go around, and he'd turn around, and he had a coat on, and he was attached to a strap, and he'd hold out a cup for you to put a penny in. You never heard of that either?
Yeah, I've
Did you?
Yeah.
Monkey music. What were they called? I forget. Did you ever see that?
No, never.
It's a funny instrument.
Yeah. Tell me about roller skating in Grand Central Station.
Oh, that's when we got older.
Yeah.
One thing I remember vividly, whenever I hear a rat-tat-tat that digs up the streets,
Yeah.
that brings back my childhood.
Yeah.
Because we went to school on 68th Street. It was PS 86 on Lexington Avenue. And all the way down and back, they were digging up the streets on Lexington Avenue. It must have been when Con Ed was first starting to communicate with every building in New York. And that sound brings back such memories. Like music brings back memories, that rat-tat-tat. I always think of going to school. We used to live on roller skates. That was the best fun. And Fifth Avenue was the best because the sidewalk was so good. And the museum was our education. I remember every room.
What did you see in the museum?
Oh, the first room is Egypt. Oh, Egypt is on the upper floor now. A beautiful lobby, wonderful lobby. And at Christmas time, they have a wonderful Christmas tree with ancient German ornaments on it. There's a sight to behold. But then I used to love the paintings best of all. They had a lot of ancient things, but the painting galleries were my favorite. And the Museum of Art on the other side, the Museum of Natural History is on the other side of the park. We used to ice skate in the park in the winter time. And then they have a sailboat pond that's lovely. It's on 72nd Street, right off Fifth Avenue. And there's a statue of Hans Christian Andersen.
Really?
And there's a picture of your father and Kevin and Fred sitting in his lap. He has a book, you know, he's a beautiful big bronze statue. And the kids climbed up and sat in his lap and we took that picture. I have it.
Yeah.
It's nice.
How long ago was this?
100 years ago.
100? That sounds good.
That's about all.
That's about all.
Oh, you know what else is fun? On New York is teeming with immigrants in
Yeah.
the day when I was a child. And we used to, Lower East Side, you see pictures today where they hung the washout on the fire escapes.
Mm-hmm.
And so many people and such talent
Yeah.
contributed so much to this country. And what else did I want to tell you about the immigrants? Chinatown, that's still there.
Mm-hmm.
The big ships that go to Europe, they're on the west side. They were great to see. Not many come in anymore. Oh, and I do remember too, the Navy used to come in the Hudson, and all Navy ships from one end to the other would drop their anchors, and at night they would run sky lights across the sky.
Yeah.
So you knew the Navy was in. They never do that anymore.
Yeah.
Never see that. Remember when the George Washington Bridge was built? We used to see that go up.
Really? Tell me about it a little bit later on.
Later on. We had, we went to a nice school, and we had a lot of nice friends. You see, Aunt Evie was very unhappy about moving to New York because she was going to George Richmond High School, and she had more devoted friends than we had.
Yeah.
You know, when you're 12, 13, 14, it doesn't matter much when you move. That's when I came up, but Aunt Evie was 18,
Hmm.
and she was unhappy about leaving.
Yeah.
But we loved it, and Charlotte and I. But what a culture shock. We came to the Hurley School. I had to get a Regents in order to go to high school.
Yeah.
So I had to take Regents. So I went to this local Hurley school, and it had an outhouse. You had to go to the outhouse. And it had 2 rooms with potbelly stove in the winter. It used to get so hot the kids used to have to move back away from it. And there was something funny about the Hurley School. What was it again? I forgot.
I don't know. I don't know too
The
much
Hurley
about
School,
stuff.
that was really something.
Yeah.
What a change. But we didn't mind.
Yeah.
We liked it. We liked the country. It was fun for us. Okay.
Yeah.
Now do I have to do it again?
No.
And you took this already?
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't follow this.
It's sort of like, you know, it's an interview. If there's anything that, that's about the family or anything like that that you remember, it's interesting, that you think might be nice. I don't know.
We used to love to sing.
Yeah.
It's summer times we used to sit on the porch, and I sang alto,
Mhm.
and Aunt Evie sang soprano. Dad was a baritone. Mother didn't sing much, but
I
we
never-
always,
never heard her
all
sing,
of
yeah.
us in the family and uncles and aunts used to love to sing.
Yeah.
Your
And the
father
neighbors
was
used
quite
to
a
listen
singer.
to it, yeah.
Yeah.
Old songs.
He stayed with it.
If I could sing now, I'd sing my father's favorite, but I don't think I have the voice.
Really?
So you really had to be a real swinger.
You want to try it?
No, that's a hard one. But, well, when I was little, it was east side, west side, all around the town. You ever hear that one? The girls played ring around Rosie, London bridges falling down. Remember that? And the first song I ever knew was Daisy, Daisy, give me your
That's an old
answer
one.
true. I was about that hot. You never heard that one, did you? I'm half crazy over the love of you. We won't have a stylish marriage. We can't afford a carriage. But you look sweet upon the seat of a bicycle built for two.
Boom, boom.
Yeah,
That's good.
that's the first song I ever knew. Oh, and we had to go on rides every Sunday. And wherever you went, there were fields full of daisies,
Yeah.
far as you could see. And now daisies are kind of rare.
Yeah.
But everywhere we stopped, we'd have to get out and pick flowers.
Yeah.
I still do that. Love to pick flowers. I'd rather have them in the house than outdoors.
Yeah.
About my mother. My mother was very placid
Yeah.
and understanding
Yeah.
and liberal, easy to live with.
Yeah.
I don't ever remember Mother dictating
Mm.
to us or going on a rampage.
Yes.
She was
I never heard it.
very,
Yeah.
very even,
never seen her
very
ever say
nice to be with. And Dad was too. He loved children, and he
Yeah.
had a magic about him. Children used to gravitate toward him, you know, like the Pied Piper.
Yeah.
He had a nice way about him,
Yeah.
you know, with children. And I remember when they used to go to special things in New York City at the hotels. My mother she never looked like everybody else. She had her hair up like Andrea. She used to wear it up like that. And her clothes were never the latest dopey stuff.
Mm.
And she used to look so great. We thought,
Yeah.
when they went out.
Yeah.
Oh, and we learned to run an elevator when we were 7.
Yeah.
We used to ride it ourselves.
Yeah.
And I remember some of the people who lived in the building. There was a man by the name of Kohansky. He was the violinist for the New York Philharmonic. And his wife was very elegant. We were little, but we used to watch her. And we always knew when she was in the elevator, she wore the most wonderful perfume
Yeah.
that lasted, after she left. And she used to wear coats with a white fox collars, and the fur would bounce when she walked. No funny. We remember that. And Charlotte had a friend whose mother was a couturier on Madison Avenue. And her name was Charlotte too, her friend. And she used to give us pieces of fabric. And it's amazing the things you remember. Aunt Charlotte and I were coming home one night last year, and the moon was setting in the west, bright orange salmon-colored moon. And I said to Aunt Charlotte, "What material does that remind you of?" And she said, that's the velvet that Charlotte's mother used to give us to make dolls' dresses. Can you imagine? She had the right answer, because I was thinking of that too. It's the same thing, that beautiful salmon red velvet she used to give us, little pieces, we used to make dolls' dresses. That's enough of me. Right?
I think you said
It's
it
about
all.
time you took over.
Well, I don't know. Tell me about music. Tell me about when you first started playing music with Uncle Bill.
Well, let me tell you, that's a long time ago. I was probably about 10 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I was about 10 years old then, Miles. And, my mother said, I think it's about time you learn to play the piano. So I took a lesson from a woman by the name of Mrs. Smithcons. She lived downtown. I used to go down there and take the lessons and come back. And it would take hours to get the thing straightened out the way they wanted. And then she would have concerts, and they were a lot of fun to play, but we had to memorize them, and they were only about 16 measures in size. But it was a lot of fun to play the music and be the first one to play it in that church. It was in the church. We didn't win any prizes, but as years went on, it did. If you were better than a few of the others, you would be given prizes for doing that. I liked music, and I still do, but you can't do everything you want to do. I like modern, I like rock and roll and all the music that's handed out to us, and we all don't play it well as you should, but we do have a lot of fun playing, and I enjoyed it. And we lived in the middle of the city of Kingston. We lived near the Armory, where you could go over there and practice and play. We had a lot of fun, and then after living on Broadway and St. James Street, we had a nice home, belonged to my father's, and we lived there for, I'd say 10 years. Then we moved to uptown Kingston up on, what was the name of Hurley Avenue, and we played around there, hung around there, and then we had the Excelsior Hose Band, and I went from piano to trumpet, which I still like more than I do
Yeah.
the piano. Of course, I love the piano to play,
Yeah.
but I like trumpet too. So we played in the band, and at the same time, we'd go to a convention, maybe in Poughkeepsie, it might be in New York, it might be some other place, and we had lots of it, and of course in the summertime. And then for what we had done, they had a carnival over on the back side of Hurley Avenue, and we'd go over there after rehearsal and have a real good time. I liked it very much, and we didn't get paid too much, but it was fun to watch how things were done, and I think those things stick with you for many years. I don't think I would want to go in the carnival right now.
Yeah.
But I still like the music. There's different kinds of music, and you can play rock and roll, you can copy from records, you can do almost anything. You can sing, you can play any instruments you want to, and no one seems to bother with it. Like I said before, I like music, and I think I always will. But being able to put the keys together, it's not the easiest thing, but we have a lot of fun. Yeah, I like music too. And then after the music started, we moved uptown to Hurley Avenue. My father had a paint shop up there, 45 Hurley Avenue. A lot of people from around here had gone over there to have their car painted or fixed, and the place got at one time went out on fire, but from the snow.
Mm-hmm.
And I was out there the day before, and I told my brothers and everybody in the family to let's go out and shovel the snow off that beautiful building of my father's. And they didn't do it, so I shoveled as far as I could until I couldn't shovel anymore. I was tired. But what happened the next day, all that snow caved right in on top of the cars and really fixed them up.
Yeah.
So that's what happened to my cars, and of course we had a long time from that. my father took over the Studebaker agency, and that was in 1947, I believe. And I had purchased one of the cars from my father, and I took it out to Glen Eyrie. At that time, my mother had been in the hospital, and she was taken back there, and I wanted to see her that day, and that was, we were going together then, and I was going to go out, but I thought you better not go because the weather wasn't too good. So we went out all by myself, and we got to the railroad crossing. Mr. Train came along and hit me in the back of the car and just spun it right around like that.
Yeah.
It didn't hit me, but it took the rear end of the car almost to pieces. And we brought it back home and fixed it up, and I put it all back together myself. And anyone that knew anything about electrical work, we would catch them for that. And I did get it back together, and I used the car for about 3 years. And then I turned around and so I was pretty lucky having an automobile. And we still have a place out in Glen Eyrie that is entertainment, swimming, dancing, and all that. And a lot of people out there are still there that were there when we moved in.
Yeah. Tell me about you had a band in the 30s, I think. Tell me about that band.
Yes, we had several bands, but this one we had on my own, and we picked up 10 men. We used to play in the auditorium on Broadway. That was quite a thing. And then we traveled up in the mountains, and I also got myself a job to play with a band that needed a trumpet player. And they called me up and wanted to know if I would go up and play trumpet with them. And have you heard this story?
Yeah, tell it again.
I hope I tell it right.
Yeah.
So we got there, and I played for a couple days, and I played for this trumpet player. And I couldn't figure out who he was, so I asked who he was. And they said he was Bette Davis's husband. And she was the one that said that something about the instrument that he played was a joke.
Or the Oscar?
Yeah, the Oscar. And he was a lot of fun, I guess, but he got married, and that gave me the job, and I played for a year there. And he, by the way, the whole team of musicians, they all came from where you're going to school. And where Fred is there, he is the same. And I was out there some time ago, and I wanted to find the musicians that played with him about 10, 15 years ago. And I didn't think it at the time to find somebody that could answer that question.
Yeah.
Where are these men that I'd like to meet again for a little while anyway, but I didn't meet them. It was fun. I liked music, and I played with most of the big bands in Kingston. And there's always time for you to rehearse and all that, but the rehearsals don't always come out the same way. I also played movies on the Broadway Theater. I played different places around here, and got kind of popular, and good thing it wasn't too. It's probably thrown me out of some of these places. But I liked music, and then I thought, well, I can't get married playing music because
Tell me about WKNY.
WKNY. Oh yes, I worked for WKNY when it first opened. That the jobs were short, hard to get one. So this one day, up to Governor Clinton, I heard that the radio station WKNY was coming back, and they were going to use our studios and all that. So they went, and they were working in back, carrying in ammunition and carrying different things in, stands and music and all that stuff, and booking. And I got my first job in the radio business. So we stayed there for a while, and I said, well, I can't go this way. I can't get married. We're in the house once a day or something like that. And I had been working on a job with Prudential Insurance Company. So I thought, how am I going to get a job with them? So I went down and saw one of the members that I had known for a long time, Mr. Myers. And he said, yeah, we need an agent, we'll take you. So it was about a week or two, and sure enough, I got the job with the Prudential. So that was a good job. they really paid off. The radio station were a little scarce with money, I guess, until they got going. But later on, WKNY became one of the finest stations around. But I wanted to be in music and all that at the same time, but you can't do it. So
Yeah.
I did become a insurance man who collected half of Kingston. And every once in a while, I'll be riding down the road and I'll say, well, there's a house I used to collect from years ago, 1934, 35, 36, 1940. I think I started around 1940, something like that. But I enjoyed it, and I made money, and I got a benefit from it. Now I can use some of the money and savings I did then. So we're right about here is where we secured for a while. Unless you have a question or something like that. Do you have a lot or no?
Let's see.
I played trumpet, and I played piano, and I played accordion, and that's about the instruments I played. So I gave the one trumpet that I had, it worked pretty good to my son, Bob. And I thought maybe Bob would kind of blow that a few times, but he doesn't have much time. He's too busy up in school. I don't blame him. Yeah.
Where did you guys meet?
Pardon?
Where did you guys meet? Where did you two meet?
Remember the first day you met me?
Oh, met you. Oh, yeah. But I forget where it was. Oh, it was down in the auditorium. We were playing a dance job. And Dorothy here was with someone, and I came off the bandstand, and he said, this is my friend Bob Steuding, and I talked to all two of them, and then they were supposed to go upstate to a place for dancing and all that, and he was playing in the band up in Schenectady, wasn't it? And I said, well, we'll go up, I'll bring you up, and then you can see your boyfriend and all there is to it. But it turned around, went back the other way. That night, got married, how many years? 5 years after, 4 years after, wasn't it? Anyway, we did get up there, and I had all the fun dancing with Don. And it rained every other time we went to go. There's no sense going up there, is there?
Then it was too late.
That was too late.
You remembered what I had on, too.
Yeah, what was it? I forgot.
No, it wasn't May. No, it wasn't June. What is that tune
Yeah.
Marie Chevalier sings? And you wore blue, and she says, no, I wore green or something. It was a good tune.
Yeah.
Remember it?
Yeah.
Marie Chevalier. And did you see that movie? Gigi.
No.
We were
It was so good. Wonderful.
married in
Reminiscing.
1940, wasn't it?
Yeah.
In 1940 we got married. And here it is, what, 1900?
92.
That's covered.
Um,
So that's how it was.
I went with this fellow.
Yeah.
I didn't, though. Really. He was not
I
he
don't
was
know.
just a date.
Yeah.
And
Well, he got married
you
after
said,
that.
oh, I'll take you up to where he's playing. That was nice of you. But there was a bad storm. Remember, snow
Yeah, well,
and
there's
ice.
several of them.
So we never got up to see this other fellow. You
Just
tried
heck with
twice.
it.
or
No
two
sense
times.
going.
So that's how we met, at a dance.
Where was the dance?
Graham was playing.
Yeah.
You'll never believe, in the auditorium in Kingston on Broadway. That was a
Really?
big, popular place. Big bands used to play there. There were dances every Saturday night, every Friday,
I
Saturday
think
night.
it was Saturday, I don't know.
That was before television.
Mm-hmm.
Television really,
Was it what's UPAC now? Was it no? Wasn't
no, it's that great big, you know where the big bus terminal is on Broadway? Then the next big Gothic building, you know, with the tower,
Mm.
the entrance is on the corner. It's
Yeah.
an armory. It was an armory. That's where the action was years ago.
Yeah.
Lots of dances. And people used to go out more than they do now. Now with television, most people don't venture. There were basketball games, and after the big basketball games, they'd be dancing. Remember?
Yeah.
All over the county, things were going on.
Yeah.
Now I don't think much is going on.
That's the whole story.
Who is your favorite musician? Your all-time favorite?
I was going to say me, but I better not. I don't know. I like them all.
You had a lot of mentors that you used to love. Big Spiderbeck. And
Yeah,
he, the trumpet player.
pictures good.
Yeah.
There's so many of them, and I haven't seen them in so long.
And you used to play their records and
Oh,
copy
yes.
all their work, like
Yeah.
Art Tatum. You used to copy a lot of Art Tatum's work.
Benny Goodwin and all. There's so many of them.
Harry James?
Harry James. I used to copy his trumpet stuff. You know.
Yes.
He had a lot of choruses and a lot of good music he played. Yeah. Then I took an accordion up and I kind of eased up on my lip a little bit. So
Yeah.
while I'm playing the accordion, it was a good thing. Then the war came along in about 1940. That was the day Bob was born, wasn't it?
The day your dad was born, Japan bombed. I was coming home when there was a great turmoil, and I really didn't care. I had done the most wonderful thing in the world, and I didn't care if the world was coming to an end. It was so good. It's the craziest feeling, but I wasn't even struck by war or anything. Anyway, it was when we were bringing your dad home that this Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor.
Well, I was drafted, and then
You were 31 when you were drafted.
I left. We left for war in '43, wasn't it?
And your dad was
I served a couple
2
years
years old. Two
On
and
a
a half.
ship,
Yeah.
on a battleship, and we covered the Pacific Ocean, and we crossed the equator about 6 times. And that's not just a line across the water either. You don't even see it, but that's where it is. And then we were near Japan when the war was over. We bombed it ourselves with other ships. And we saw everything that went by, the ships and the islands and the submarines and everything.
You know, excuse me, Bob, you told a good story about one island. Everybody was redheaded and all the dogs looked alike.
Really?
He would, what was the name of the place? That always struck me funny. They all had red hair. And it was dyed or it was red, and they didn't want to get off the ship. When you were sailing away, they were
That's
climbing up the...
That's right.
Now the name, it wasn't, it's a funny place out near Australia. And all the dogs were alike, and all the people. And the natives didn't want to be thrown off the ship. They wanted to go on.
That ought to be enough about our life.
I like that story though, when you told me that.
Mm.
That was interesting.
Yeah. Right, Miles?
Yeah. When did you guys get the record cutter? When did you guys get the Meisner? That record.
Oh, you were, Bob was little and Kevin and Fred would, let's see, they were 2 years old.
Mm.
We got that about 40 years ago,
Yes,
wouldn't you say?
that's about right. Mm.
About 40 years ago.
That's about it.
That was exciting too, gosh,
Yeah.
to sing through a microphone. Gosh, that was fun.
Mhm.
I sang it in high school at one time.
Yeah, I didn't. I played in a high school band. That was enough.
And you
know.
lent me your microphone.
That's right.
And that was a big thing in those days, to get up on the stage and sing through a mic. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
You were probably the only one in town that had a microphone.
That's right.
Today, you don't even use them, do you?
Oh, they have big ones now.
You just wear
It's really
something
loud.
or whatever.
Yeah.
What was your first reactions to television?
Well, it wasn't easy, I know that, because it's played altogether different. The music is the same, but it's hard to go from one station to another and then play your best, and it's quite a thing.
Now, Andrea wanted to know what our reaction was to television. And You
Well-
were not as impressed as I was because you played weekends.
That's right.
And you had lots to do. You had to work at night. But I went bananas. I left. I sat in front of that. It was Imogene Coca and Sid
I
Caesar.
didn't like that.
And Imogene would come out in funny sneakers. And he was such a great mimic, and so was she. You wouldn't remember them. They were the finest comedians. So funny. Really, not slapstick either. It was very, very good. And he was a linguist. He could imitate an Italian and make it sound as though he was speaking the language. Oh, I thought it was great. I thought television was wonderful. It was so entertaining for me because I was home alone a lot. I liked it. Now I don't
Yeah.
care that much, but in those days it was a phenomenon.
Yeah.
To think you could see something coming through that. When I was little, the first radios were invented. And I remember being enthralled by that. Although I was young, I remember my father built a set, and there were things that went together like that, and he used to let us play with it. And there was one word called heterodyne, whatever heterodyne was. And Dad was very talented. He was a lot, you take after many ways after my father. And we used to sit Sunday nights, and I would sit, Mother had a chair that had a velvet side, and we used to sit by Dad's chair, and it was Mary and Bob. It was a situation,
regular
something
show
or other,
every
Mary and Bob every Sunday. And I remember making designs on the velvet. If you went one way, it would make it, and then if you wiped it off. And I remember doing that all through the show. Crazy.
Yeah. That's about does it, doesn't it?
Yeah. Oh, I thought television was fantastic. And television was very good in those days. It was spontaneous. It wasn't rehearsed. You know, you had to come and do your thing right in front of the camera. It isn't like it is today. Rehearsed and more canned than it is. But it was really good.
Your turn, Miles.
Yeah.
Oh, I should tell you when Dad was talking about piano lessons.
Yeah.
He took from 3 or 4 teachers, and one would bang him on the knuckles with a ruler if he didn't use the right fingering.
Really?
Can you imagine? You know,
Well,
each finger
he
has
missed
to go in
13 hits
succession.
with his heavy pencil. One day she missed it and fell
Frustrated.
on the floor, and I laughed at her. I think, that's going to kill me. Laughing at her.
So when you didn't give it up?
Yeah. Well, I got another teacher uptown, and he's much better.
And you went to the point where you went beyond them because you could play without music. You knew just where all the chords were.
That's right.
That's what really is fantastic. So many musicians are fine musicians, but they can't play without the
Yeah,
music, without the notes.
When I went to work for Prudential, they told me that I could play no music. Not because they didn't like the way I played it, but that they didn't want me to play because that takes time, practice, and all that. So there'd be no music.
But you did
One day
anyway.
he
You
called
boy,
me and I had sneaked a job up in
you sneaked every job, every weekend.
No, I did.
For the next 40 years.
Oh, you sure did.
Sure, it was fun.
If you
Yeah.
had known what you know today, you would not have let them intimidate you that way.
You can imagine somebody giving you a job like that for about $35. In those days, that was a lot of money.
Yeah.
And you sure would take it if you could.
You did a lot of
everybody-
moonlighting.
Played in Canada and all those places.
What amazes me is you played all through the years when the children were young because the money was important. But you must have had a guardian angel on your shoulder. When I think of the mountains you came down in the wintertime, the ice and the snow, and one night you came on the thruway, and there was, 2 feet of snow on the thruway and drifts, and there was no landmarks. He came from the Skyline, that's up by the Rip Van Winkle Bridge. It was a real classy cocktail lounge, and they used to stroll, good trio with a bass and an accordion and a guitar. And you came home And how you did, you don't even know yourself,
Yeah.
because when you came through to the toll booth, the guy thought you were a ghost. He didn't know how he
I was
got
too
there. He said,
tired to
where did you
even
come from?
talk.
And then coming down mountains, icy, cold, wet, snowy. He had a little guardian angel.
Tough world.
But you did it for love.
Mm.
Don't
That's
hand
right.
me that.
That's right.
A musician would do it for nothing. You did it for love, because you loved him. And you're a hand of the first water. Isn't he, Miles?
That's about it, isn't it, huh?
I don't know.
Wouldn't you say that's about it?
That's enough, you mean?
Yeah. It's the truth, though. It's the truth. All the time.
If you don't want to do this anymore, you know.
What are you gonna do?
That's a long interview.
Yeah.
Is that still going?
Yeah.
Wow. How long is it going to take to play? Half hour?
Same amount of time it takes to make it.
I think we've said enough. It's you.
I think so
Huh?
too.
You can think about anything else you want to say. How, did you play in any of the big bands with Uncle Bill?
The big bands?
Yeah.
Yeah, I played with the biggest.
Oh, you went traveling in Connecticut, all over Massachusetts,
Yeah, with
Vermont.
Gene
But,
Samarco from Poughkeepsie.
Yeah.
We traveled Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, where you go to school.
Mm-hmm.
But you had a chance to go in a big band, but you didn't want to. You didn't want to leave.
Well, it's too late.
Actually, you really didn't want to get into that life.
No.
Remember that? You didn't want to travel.
It's too hard.
And they pay you half the time. Sometimes you play a job and there would be no money.
Yeah.
No money at all. So we came down the road, and Bill, my brother, was playing trombone with the band, and he told the fellow that's running the bus to stop. And then we stopped by the big field of apples and bananas, and not bananas, apples and all things like that. And he brought them back onto the bus, and he sold them to the fellas in the band. And it's just one of those things, but everybody gets something to eat anyway. That was up in Vermont, I guess. I don't know. Yeah.
What was the name of the band you played in?
And Gene Samarco. It was his band, and he was out of Poughkeepsie. They had a band, but they had one trumpet missing. They didn't have it. They just had missed one. And the fellow said, "Why don't you go down and see about the job?" So I go down to Poughkeepsie, cross on the ferry boat, and got over to Poughkeepsie and carried my accordion and trumpet up on top of the hill in Poughkeepsie. And I rehearsed with the band and got the job. And I stayed with them for about 4 or 5 months, something like that. That was enough, though. That's hard work. And the pay wasn't what it should have been, but that started the music.
Remember the time you had dragged your accordion across the whole Poughkeepsie Bridge on foot?
Yeah, that's the one I was just, the two, all the way up the hill. I guess that's it, Mark.
Okay.
We could go on forever, but it would get boring.
You think so?
Yeah,
You better quit while we're ahead.
Yeah, I said that. Don't say too much.
Do you have anything else you'd like to say? Either of you? No?
How much has Hurley changed in the past, 40 years?
How much did they pay you?
How much
No,
has Hurley changed?
How much has Hurley changed?
I don't know.
Not really too much, Andrew.
You don't think so?
No, more houses up on the hill, but you don't see them in Hurley.
They're
There's great sprawl up in the apple orchard, Elmendorf, you know, we go
yeah.
over Lucas Avenue, but you don't see them in Hurley. These are pretty much the same.
Yeah.
The school is bigger. The public school is nice. It's grew, but same old Hurley church and the same old street, 300-year-old houses. Did you take Andrea through them?
No, I will. No.
Oh, please do.
Yeah, stone houses.
And museum and take us to see the old cemetery?
Okay.
The graves there are fantastic. One has the skull and crossbones, which was popular in those days, in the 1700s. And I told Miles, he probably knows it. It has a saying on it in ancient Dutch script. It says, pause here a while as you pass by. As you are now, so once was I. As I am now, soon you will be. Prepare yourself to follow me. Real old, and it's still there. Pause here a while as you pass by. Dreary, you know. As you are now, so once was I. I think that's so, really a mind blower if you stop and let it get under your skin. You know?
That's right.
That's there. You'll find it if you go toward the back of the cemetery toward the right. And the big white birch tree there, that
Pleasant
big
place.
white birch. Listen, it is because it's so ancient and it's on a knoll. And it's the only one that has the oldest graves in the United States. One of the few. It isn't like the average cemetery.
No.
It's historic, you know. You go between the Polly Crispell house and the Palin house. The sign
I think
is
Fred took me back there when I was.
Yeah, it's
Fred
really-
used to take me all around and all
Yeah,
these
it's
weird
eerie.
people
Yeah.
down by Parenka and stuff.
Yeah. And the houses are great. Much nicer than they were during the Depression.
Yeah,
Then they were old hulks.
yeah.
But then people with means bought them and restored them.
Mm.
And now they're nicer than what they originally were.
Yeah.
Pretty though. It's famous because it's, what is it, what do they call it? The only street in the United States with such a number of houses that old
Mm.
in one area. Accumulation, maybe, of old stone houses.
Okay.
Okay.
You're free to go now.
Free to go.
You've been interrogated enough.
Oh, gee.
Well,
have
you
we
could
ever-
talk forever. Just
Oh,
like
we
any-
could, gosh.
Sure.
Did you turn it off?
Oh no.
Now someday we can see that, huh?
Yeah. Yeah.
Good fun.
Yeah.
We'll probably hate it when we see it.
That's right.
Oh, we
That's
look so
right.
bad,
That's
we
true.
look so old, we
My
sound
God,
so dumb.
is that me? Sure.
Isn't it true?
I don't know.
Oh, gosh.
Everyone else
I'm not
thinks
gonna
so.
watch
I
it.
don't want to look like that. But,
You can pull the plugs out now. There's one over there and there's one over here.
Well, that's a first for you and me, huh, Ron?
Sure
To be
is.
interviewed.
you should get those
I know I've been on radio and
Oh, you have, that's right.
you know, they didn't have television though, but then we had lots of radio. Yeah.
You wanna move that?
Do I want to use that?
Wanna move it?
If I don't break it.
Oh, that's good.
How's that?
Ooh, that feels better.
They should have gotten in this picture.
Has Miles ever interviewed you yet?
No, not really. We've videotaped like some things, but no.
We just sort of, yeah, we just sort of joked around.
Yeah, sort of just played with the video camera.
But this is real serious stuff because this is go into the archives.
Yeah.
Your father's archives, I'm sure.
Yeah. Definitely.
You gonna try just
He's
a hunk of it and see what
The
it sounds like?
historian of the family, Bob.
Hmm?
Your Bob is the historian of the family.
Yeah.
We're gonna play a little bit so we can hear.
No, because that's a VCR and we don't have, we're really
I see.
old fashioned, we don't have all that stuff. We have more books here to read than we get to, let
Who
alone
the
watch
heck are they?
television. The books just pile up, we can't seem to read everything that has to be read.
That always seems to happen.
Pardon?
I said that always seems to happen.
Isn't it true? Oh, it bothers me.
Mm-hmm.
They just keep piling up and there's so
Can I
many
help you,
good
Miles,
books.
with any of
No,
that?
that's okay.
we only really, when you think of it, we only watch about an hour of television in the morning. I like to watch it when I have breakfast. And it's not my favorite.
Could you hear
Yeah, that was good. Play the song that you wrote for Grandma.
Friendship?
How about that? Bad idea.
How about that, huh?
It's pretty good.
I found lemonade, Miles. I'm gonna put ice in the glass.
Good. Great.
Want to try another one?
Yeah.
You know this. Oh, it's a time from May to December. When the days go April in Paris,
I like that.
if I know it.
That was good.
That's it. That's it.